Since Ghostbusters 2016, fans have been expected to watch their beloved franchises die painful and miserable deaths as social justice interlopers took control of them and proudly dragged these IPs across concrete. Fans have had to deal with being laughed at and mocked for their criticisms as they point out that these people did not deserve the keys to these characters that have entertained us over the years. Having endured years of being called racist, sexist, xenophobic, homophobic, transphobic, and whatever phobias in fashion at the current time, most fans eventually got sick of fighting, given up, said it and moved on. Tired of watching the corpse of their favorite movie or TV show get happily gangbanged by the unworthy.
Stop! He's already dead.
There's only a few pieces of entertainment left untouched by those who don't deserve to even cop a feel. So when the animated Scott Pilgrim series was announced, one was skeptical until you saw every key player, from the writer Bryan Lee O'Malley to the director Edgar Wright to the entire principal cast, was returning. For Scott Pilgrim fans, this was a surefire hit and a chance to relax. All they had to do was sit back with a couple of brewski beers and wait for its release. The original creator taking control of his own IP, what could go wrong? Turns out, everything.
God damn you all to hell!
Scott Pilgrim Takes Off is neither good nor about Scott Pilgrim. In fact, Scott Pilgrim is not even in his own show at all. Once again, Netflix is giving us the Kevin Smith He-Man bait and switch treatment. Even more tragic is just how hard Netflix pushed the fact that everyone involved with making the books and movie special was involved. Matters only get worse because this is all Bryan Lee O'Malley's fault. At least Kevin Smith didn't have the fucking balls to call Masters of the Universe He-Man when he deleted the character from his own show. Once again, original fans are sucked in by Netflix's marketing team only to be given the feminist rug pull. This isn't Scott's story. This is Ramona's. It's like if Masters of the Universe had a baby with Velma. There are other problems with Scott Pilgrim Takes Off. The first episode is the movie's first act distilled down to 28 minutes with one simple major change. And already we have to stop there. This, my friends, is called creative bankruptcy. A continuation of the story would have been nice. A reimagining of the same story we got in the books and the movie would have been okay if done right, but the first episode being a speed run of the first act of the movie and the books is hack work, and right away fans will notice everything is off. Sure, the very same actors that made the movie special return, Michael Cera as Scott Pilgrim and Mary Elizabeth Winstead as Ramona Flowers, are there. Chris Evans, Allison Pill, Anna Kendrick, Brie Larson, Kieran Culkin, Ellen Wong, Johnny Sims, Mark Webber, Brandon Routh, and Aubrey Plaza all returned to round out the original cast. But all of them read their lines like they were read over a Zoom call, bored to be there and waiting for the other to speak.
Scott, your life is so interesting.
Thanks, Kim. Oh, that was sarcasm.
It's all clear that no one was interested in playing off each other. The dialogue felt flat and spliced together in someone's apartment over a dry ham sandwich. Much like the acting, the animation looks cheap and inexpensive. It's saying a lot when the live-action Scott Pilgrim vs. the World was more animated than the animated TV show. In the movie, there's always something to look at. Format changes, interesting scene transitions, and quick cuts in the editing to keep you on your toes.
Oh, come to the first round of this Battle of the Bands thing.
You have a band?
Yeah, we're terrible. Please come.
Sure.
See you at the show, Scott Pilgrim.
Oh, hey, it's tonight. At the Oh, my band has a show tonight at the Rocket, 9 p.m.
You have a band?
Yeah, we're terrible.
Okay. 9 p.m., the Rocket. I'll be there.
Here in Takes Off, you will find no quick-fire nerdy witticisms, no one steps on the other's lines, no neat transitions from one scene to the next. It's all lifeless and dull, much like Brie Larson's real-life persona. As the first episode continues down the same path you've already experienced, there's an attempt to tap into the nostalgia of the books in the movie, but they managed to skip over every little detail, which made both great.
Anyway, night's not over yet. I think there's a thingy over here somewhere.
A thingy?
A door.
The opening episode concludes with the Matthew Patel fight, only for him to win this time, killing Scott in one punch. And here is the change that wakes the fans up and makes them clean the slobber off their chin and rub the sleep out of their eyes. Now this is different, but it's not in a good way. It's more like you're on the water slide of death headed for the bottom of an empty pool kind of way.
Hope that's not a hostage.
If you're a fan of the books or the film or both, you already find yourself bored out of your mind. But at this moment, you find yourself bored, confused, and pissed out of your mind. What the fuck did I just watch? Scott's dead? The episode ends. The next episode bar begins to load. You click it before it autoplays because you gotta know if they are really fucking for real with this shit. Episode 2 doesn't make it any better. Okay, Scott's not actually dead. It just appears that he is. It also appears that he disappeared from his own fucking show because he's nowhere to be fucking found. This indeed is titular character assassination to make room for the secondary female character. Fuck your meta-sequel multiverse reboot shit. Take your cheap animation and third-rate acting and get the fuck out of my line of sight. Scott Pilgrim Takes Off is trash disguised as your next meal. And the worst part is, Ramona Flowers now has a cat. Cringe. Also, they take time to point out they gendered a robot. I mean, they really hammer home this point to pander to the crowd that never gives enough of a shit to watch this show in the first place. These people only want their talking points repeated and regurgitated like baby birds waiting for mama bird to puke out their lunches into their beaks. Bryan Lee O'Malley is happy to deep throat 2 of his fingers and gag for them. Not only does Scott Pilgrim get cucked out of his own show by the weakest ex, but Matthew Patel also forces Gideon from his own league with ease, because that somehow makes sense to O'Malley. The only part that doesn't suck is the back and forth banter between Todd and Lucas Lee, who seem to be the only 2 characters that remind you of their movie's counterparts. It's a short-lived scene, but it's refreshing. It seemed like Chris Evans and Brandon Routh actually did some acting here and gave a shit. Now that Scott's gone and out of the picture, only to be replaced by Ramona, it's a free-for-all for which females can replace Scott in other areas of his life. Knives Chow, the high schooler that Scott was once dating, is now the basis of Sex Bomb. Does the band now rock or suck? They suck.
That was a test, Jimmy.
1, 2.
You passed.
But the real moment of truth, if the show is ever going to return from sucking, is Scott's funeral scene. Envy Adams bursts into the church in full diva attire, literally dances on Scott's grave while his friends and parents cheer her on. Envy leaves as fast as she came in, and everyone saved for Ramona follows her like rabid fans. This is the point of no return, and evident now more than ever that this is in fact Ramona's show. The irony is not lost on me that she sits alone in a church where Scott seemingly lies dead in front of her. We are going to explore her dealing with her exes and her growth all by her lonesome, which would all be fine and good if this show bore her namesake and was sold as her show and not Scott's. Scott Pilgrim Takes Off was supposed to be a layup, but everything about the show is off with its contrived cringe meta humor and phoned in performances. The pacing is off, not even by Scott Pilgrim's standards, but by any kind of standards in general. It's another time-traveling multiverse mess, where it was future Scott that actually pulled present Scott into an alternate timeline, making him disappear from his own show. Yeah, like we don't get at least 3 tier multiverse movies and TV shows a year now, but this one is going to be the one.
Oh, come on!
You can be sure Scott Pilgrim Takes Off will have its defenders. There's always those who need to keep a lookout while others accept payment for their necrophilia. If you're a fan of the books or the movie, Scott Pilgrim will make you rip your own fucking face off and beg for death. What Bryan Lee O'Malley was thinking was beyond me, other than he doesn't have a single new idea in the tank and the royalty checks just aren't covering his lifestyle anymore. It's thoughts like these that make you really want to claw away at your own flesh. Remaking, reimagining, retinkering your story is one thing. It's your story. You can do whatever you want. Just don't expect the fans you've gained to accept it and go along with it.
I bet you have.
McClunky.
It's entirely another thing to sell the fan base on the fact that your titular character will be in his own fucking show, only to take him away and replace him. It's cheap, false advertising. It alienates an entire audience who otherwise would be more than willing to go to bat for the creative decisions made. It's a dirty trick to get people to watch your show so investors can gawk at the numbers. It is the entertainment equivalent to clickbait. The entire show comes off as Bryan Lee O'Malley attempting to address the criticisms leveled against Scott and Ramona throughout the years. Scott is essentially accused of being a scumbag kitty diddler, taking advantage of the high schooler Knives Chow. He was 23 and she was 17, and passing the time with her until someone better skates into his life. Ramona has been accused of being a flat love interest who emotionally manipulates men into fighting her battles for her. Both criticisms are true, and these are issues that are resolved in the ending of the books in the movie. People missing the point of the themes of Scott Pilgrim is nobody else's problem but their own. But Bryan Lee O'Malley seems to be the kind of autistic guy that makes sure that everyone at the party understands crystal clear what what it is that he meant exactly. No matter how many times you tell him you understand, he's going to keep explaining it to you until you leave the party altogether, or he kills you with his tism. Scott Pilgrim Takes Off is aptly named. The title character leaves and lets other characters chew at his story like termites. It runs consistent with modern Hollywood's playbook by baiting and switching a popular male lead character for a nice little gender swap no one gives a shit about. They sold to you that this is a Scott Pilgrim show, but he's got more screen time in the promotional material than he does in his own show. It's empty, hollow, cold, poorly acted, and lastly, not needed. Bryan Lee O'Malley has alienated his entire fan base with this route. It's Hollywood's greatest bait and switch yet. This is an Ocean's 8 style caper. They made everyone feel comfortable that they weren't going to get hustled, as they were getting suckered from the moment the show was announced. It would have been better, like his character Scott Pilgrim, if Bryan Lee O'Malley just took off and disappeared from his own IP. If you enjoyed this video, you go ahead and smash that like button. While you're done doing that, hit the subscribe button. And then after that, share this with your friends, family, people you hate. Maybe you don't like my content and just want to waste somebody's time. Do it. Share it. Thank you. It is much appreciated. I'm out of here.